Grab the Connex too, Mud Duck.
Oh, 833. Still tripping, buck all over Jack Cuddy. Never did you.
Yeah, I did get a good deal on the chicken breast. They were pretty decent price.
Okay, getting the ice pack ready for the camera here. Yes, I have to put a effing ice pack on my camera. Alright, me, Shane, Gemini from Gemini Garage, and Mondo Mag Mount Mania. Yeah, what a test this was. They're all interesting tests. There's always something interesting going on or something happens. Not all the antennas make it through either, so we've definitely learned that from the first Mag Mount Mania. So, oh geez, where to start? I guess I can do a real quick recap here. The Mad Max whip here that I put together. Again, I kind of wanted to try and, the stainless whip is kind of the, and all be all as far as mobile antennas or quarter wave antennas in general. So, kind of figured I'd just try and cobble something up to make it a little bigger and badder than the rest of these. I'm not quite sure if I accomplished that. I think I came pretty close. Ultimately, the whips, a lot of people are going to say the whip would have done a lot better or be a lot better if it was just solidly bolted to the vehicle because it would have more of a ground plane, and that's probably true, but it had a pretty good ground plane with all these magnets here, and I think it did pretty good considering what it was and what its intent was. So and I did finally get the SWR on it down to like a 1.4 or 1.3. If I was only putting like maybe 4 watts into it, stock CB watts, I was getting like a 1.3 or so. So given the fact that where it was sitting out here, that's perfectly acceptable for that under the circumstances. And while I'm on the subject, I need to introduce the mystery antenna. This, of course, is a President Maryland, and it had a really good SWR and seems to work really well. It doesn't have the biggest, thickest whip of all of these, and it certainly doesn't have the biggest wire inside of this load, but I actually think that's kind of part of why it performs so well, and I'll get to that in a minute. Also, updates and notes on all the antenna testing here. The Wilson 5000, it did have a failure. It shorted out, and I was able to get it working again, but just to FYI, I'll get into that and comment on that too, believe you me. That's not going to go unnoticed here. Let's see here. Okay. I think I'm going to just get right with some of the results here. 2 tests here. One of them was at about 10-12 miles away, and then the first one was basically the same as the first Mag Mount Mania, where I just went to the parking lot in the little restaurant and I transmitted back to the house here. Had the camera trained on the 2 radios, the RCI 69 base and the Striker 955 version 1. Excuse me. So, yeah, pretty much the same type of test, except I was using the President Randy, and that's got high and low on it, so I was using high power and low power on that. So let me see here. Okay, just making sure I had all those results written down. So okay, so the first test, again, it's like a couple miles away. High power is like 4 watts, low power is around 1 watt. Using the President Randy, and I'll try and put a little bit of footage in here maybe while I'm kind of going over the results here. on low power on the 955 and an 8 on high power on 955. And on the RCI 69 it was 8 low power, 9 high power. The Wilson 500, that was a 7 on low power, 8 on high power, 955. And then on the 69 bass it was an 8 on low power and a 9 on the high power. And then we went back to the Tram 300 again, and it was a 7 low power, 8 high power on the 955. Of course, it was hooked back up after that. And then it showed a little bit more of a signal, 7 and a 9, as opposed to 6.5 and an 8. But that's pretty close. You could, it doesn't take much to change your signal a half a S unit, talking into the microphone a little bit louder, or who knows what. So, anyways, that was pretty much the results there for that test. And pretty much what that shows is, nothing really groundbreaking there, but it does show a consistency that, even with 1 watt, it kind of shows you what these antennas are capable of doing. They're all quarter wave antennas, I think, for the most part. I'd have to double check on the President here, because sometimes they throw in like a 5 8 waveline or something on you. But for that, they're all quarter wave antennas. So the performance, at that distance is similar, and it's, you're going to see a similar performance in the second test coming up too. But anyways, but that's okay, because it does boil down a lot to quality control and how big of an antenna you can fit, how big of one you can use. As I've said before, this antenna here, this is a great antenna here. It's pretty much performs as well as the whip, and it's a lot more convenient. But it's going to be impractical, for certain situations. So let's see here, what else we got. So there's a little bit of the tangled mess there left over from the test. Unfortunately, I didn't have my action cam mounted on the pickup truck while I was doing it, but pretty much just put them on the top of it there like that, ran the cable in through the window, and tested them all in the same parking lot that I did the first mag mount Mania in. So there you go. Real quick, I'm going to go into the results of the second test. And again, that test was from here, and I'm going to be transmitting, and someone else is on the other end, and they're basically reading me the signal as I go from the larger antenna down to the small antenna. I'm going to use the base antenna as a baseline, and then we'll go with the Mad Max whip all the way on down and record what the signal level is with that. So stick with me. Okay, so one little extra thing I kind of wanted to mention when it comes to these tri-mag antennas here is putting them on and taking them off. First, you're going to notice that the top of this roof is not perfectly flat. It's got these kind of tracks in it here to either drain water, or it's just kind of the design of the roof. You're going to find that on a lot of vehicles these days, so you just kind of have to put the magnets the best place that they'll fit. But having said that, and that isn't the best spot for one either. Having said that, this thing here is basically like a 3/8 or 5/16 stud in this metal ball here, going down through this plate, and then the nut on the other side of it. This thing, you can muscle it around. You can, you're not going to bust this thing, okay? You're not going to bust it. However, the stereo over here, and let me just swing around here just to kind of show you. Okay. Now, the stereo here, I can try and get a decent view of what's going on there. stereo here, you really can't do that too. This right here isn't steel. It's either some kind of aluminum or pot metal. So if you put this thing up, you know, and start reefing on it like that, I'm scared that this right here isn't going to be able to handle that. You know, just because. And that's, you know, you can't expect him to make this thing out of, you know, hardened steel. You know what I mean? So once again, I'm not saying it's totally weak. I'm just saying that when it comes to peeling these magnets off of here, these things are really strong. And that one, like I said, you could grab that one and muscle it off. But this one, you're not going to want to do that. This one, what you want to do is you got pick two magnets and figure that those are going to be your hinge or your lever. This here, because you got some of these divots here, you can kind of get something underneath here, like your finger, and then just kind of lift up and tilt it like that, and then lift it off of there. If you really find it unwieldy and having a problem with it, you can just take the whole antenna part off, like this. You know what I mean? Well, I'm not going to take it all the way off. Well, maybe I will take it all the way off. If it's too unwieldy, just take the whole thing off like that. And then that way you're not going to have to worry about busting this. Because this part right here, you can probably reef on it a little bit. But you just don't want to pull on that joint right there, if that makes any sense. You can also put like maybe a rag under here and maybe like a little plastic pry bar to pry it up on there. Again, these things are really on there, and the fact that this has these kind of channels in here actually makes it easier to get it off of here. If you've got a really flat roof or a real flat space, you know, you're going to be in for a surprise just trying to get it off of here, which is exactly why you kind of just want to lay this antenna down and set it up. You don't want to be trying to get this thing on and off your roof all the time. So anyways, just a little FYI there about putting these antennas on and off with these tri-magnets, because they do stick. So all right, so I just kind of want to go over the results here real quick. I'm just kind of going to hold it in front of the camera and kind of read it off. Again, this was about 12 miles away as the crow flies, and I was using the Washington, and I had it turned down to about 4 watts, maybe swinging to 5. But again, this is 12 miles at about 4 watts, maybe swinging to 5. My friend's got a Striker 955 version 2, and he's got an IMAX 2000 about 25 feet up. And so I did a baseline first with my personal base antenna, which is a Mako V5000, and on that, again, around 4 or 5 watts at 12 miles, that gave me a 6. And then the Mad Max Whip gave me a 4.5, and the Serial P2000 was again on his end a 4.5. The Striker SRA 10 a 5, the Wilson 5000 a 5, the President Maryland a 5, and also there was a little bit of skip that was coming in. So some of this is, you know, the audio was a little bit patchy, but that was, you know, still that was as good as the signal was getting, good enough for him to be able to hear me and for him to be able to relay back to me. So again, back to the Maryland a 5, Tram 3500 a 5, Wilson 500 a 5, and then the Tram 300 with barely audible at all was a 4. So that's about right. Again, that kind of fits in line with all these things being, you know, an S unit or two, you know, and sometimes even closer than that together, regardless of the power that you're using. So anyways, at least, and that's good for reference. Like I said, as the power level goes up, you're going to want bigger antennas to be able to handle the power. And, you know, a bigger antenna is better for receive, and it's, you know, a bigger antenna is better. But, you know, it just goes to show that when you're talking about an application like this, you know, you've got a little bit of leniency in how big you can go. Having the biggest one isn't always the best. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons you're getting like one of the reasons these two larger antennas were about a half of an S unit or so lower than the rest of these was because of the kind of a load that they've got, just the way they work. I guarantee you at probably a certain distance they're probably a half an S unit more, or maybe even better. Because that's the same thing with my two antennas. Like I said, the one antenna tends to measure an S unit higher than the other one, but the other one sometimes can hear things that the other one can't too. So that's just kind of the way that goes. So anyways, there you go. That's the results from that. I wasn't able to get any of it on film. I just only had a few minutes, to be able to get the test done. So it's kind of in a hurry. So I had to get it done. But there you go. So anyways, again, hope that helps. All right. Okay, well, there you go. I did want to mention real quick that because this was the mystery antenna, there were some specs that didn't get thrown in with the rest of these when I was introducing them all. The height didn't get introduced. It's 62.5 inches tall from the very, very bottom here to the very, very tip top. And that is, this antenna is a trucker style antenna, so it's which means it's got the 3/8 24 threaded bottom on it. So it's threaded into the Tram 5-inch mag mount that was used in the first mag mount Mania test. I believe the Fire Stick 2, the second mystery antenna, was using this magnet base here. So that's the base it's in. Again, 62.5 tall. It gave me a 1.2 SWR, and the power handling on it is 500 watts. So once again, I would say the performance of these antennas is pretty similar. When you've got numbers like, 7 and 8, 7 and 8, 7 and 8, or, pretty much all the way through the range of most of them, and even the little Tram right there on the end there was only an S unit or so below some of the rest of these. Well, what does that mean?
It means that this damn thing doesn't work.
So that means that they're working the way they're supposed to, and they're, efficient, and that's okay. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, this antenna just blows that one away. Now, of course, you could have something like that happen in the test, but, these are all reasonably decent antenna designs. I would say they're all great antenna designs. The quality control of some of them leaves a little bit to be desired. The Wilson here, what do you say? I mean, having an antenna that's rated at the power rating, I'm really glad that when that thing decided to short out, and it did, basically what happened was I decided, because I'm always complaining about the rubber base on some of these antennas, how some of them have a rubber boot and others don't. So because these bases are pretty much the same, I wanted to try the Striker rubber boot on the Wilson 5000. I just wanted to try it. And so I put this rubber boot on here and stuck this thing to the top of the truck there, and it was like just a dead short. Just the needles were going back and forth, and it was just, and it took me a while to figure out that it had in fact shorted out. And what had happened is just, taking it on and off, that chunking and clunking on and off of there, just it knocked something loose in the load, and I finally fiddled around with it and got it to work again, but that's just not cool, man. And that's been a known problem with some of these antennas. There's a guy on YouTube, I believe if you type in Daniel B, Wilson 1000, he had the same thing happen with his antenna. He cut it open and found some bad solders in there and fixed it and grafted it back together, but you shouldn't have to do that. This antenna costs more than all the rest of them on here. These things are $150, $160. The 5000s are. And I'm really glad it shorted out on an antenna analyzer and not on a radio. Again, it's another reason why you run these tests. These have been accused of having that problem for a long time, and apparently nothing's changed. So, which is unfortunate though, because it's an excellent antenna. When it's made like it's supposed to, but yeah. Glad I did this test. Was kind of excited about doing this test because these antennas are all a little bit bigger. There's not quite as many of them, and generally speaking, the quality control's a little bit better. So yeah, that's pretty much the thing. With all these, I'm going to kind of collect myself and regather these things all up and kind of make some final comments and opinions on what I think about them and the test, and that'll be that. So once again, I really hope that everybody's getting some useful information and everything out of this, because it's been a really long time, or if ever, that anybody's kind of tried to get all these antennas together for shootout. Once again, you want to make sure the design isn't flawed. You want to make sure you don't have serious quality control problems. And then just to kind of see what's still available and how they're made, and what may or may not be good for your application. This antenna here, not a high power handling, and it kind of has one of those loads that sticks up, so it's a little bit tippy. Not really something you'd maybe want on your four-wheel drive, but because it's got a smaller coil and a smaller load, it's got an excellent SWR, and it doesn't freak out as much, in enclosed spaces like something like, this does or this does. So, they all have their purpose and their place, and so I know I've definitely learned a lot. So, again, with that, I'm going to gather these up and make some final comments and opinions. So, stick with me. Okay, well, so I'm kind of going to give my final feelings and comments and opinions on all this here. Again, you might think this is a lot of stuff to have in here. This spring here with the ball and then this riser, but no, that's actually what some 102-inch whips need to be the proper length. Of course, that's going to depend on the band that you're on, but generally speaking, it can take that much. So as far as this thing goes, it worked pretty good. I did manage to get the SWR on it down to where it was probably around 1.3 or so, just trying to put maybe 4 watts through it. So that's acceptable given the fact it was on a vehicle and it had a whole bunch of stuff around it. So again, I'm not going to complain about these antennas that have really thick whips and a lot of metal, because again, it's like having your base antenna kind of lower down on the ground, because you've just got a lot here that's going to reflect, as opposed to, as I said before, these kind of having the load wire being smaller and encapsulated in here. They just don't, they're just not as sensitive. So again, this worked here pretty well. The magnet mount base here, this one here, the tram base, these rubber pads that come over the edge here like this, they're a lot thicker and they stay on here a lot better. This kind of rubberized, these basically look like the exact same mounts. It's just that this, instead of this having the rubber boots on it, it's just kind of got some kind of like a sticker, a rubberish sticker and a coating on there. It's not bad, but like I said before, if you shift this thing at all when it's on the vehicle, it just kind of has a tendency to kind of flake off and peel off over time. So it just kind of depends on what you're putting it on. You can always get yourself some rubber boots like this and they'll fit on there and that'd be just fine. You can use it as it is, but like I said, it's kind of dependent on what you're going to put it on and how frequently you might take it on and off of there, as to how nice you want these magnets to be. But otherwise, I'm going to make a special little video on this Serio and how to use it and how I think it's supposed to be used and how you should use it. Meaning, this thing is pretty much on par. The testing shows it's pretty much on par with the 102-inch whip. And I know some of you out there are going, no, you can't. Look, I'm not saying ultimately you couldn't probably run more through this setup, and this might be, a little bit stronger in a lot of ways, but for the money you spend and what you get, meaning this whole setup coming with the magnet and everything is around 120 bucks shipped. It might be a little more now, but this thing is pretty much as good as a whip, except it's probably a little easier to use in the sense that you can lay it down. You can loosen this thing up, lay it down, and then put it up when you're ready to use it, which is really how I think you're supposed to use it. Really the best way to use it, and I kind of go over that in the video that I make on this. So again, can't complain about the performance of it. It can be a little bit sensitive because you've got a lot of metal in this area here, so if you've got it on a vehicle, depending on the roof and then depending on what's around you, you might get a little higher SWR, than some of these. But once again, we're not saying it's the bad antenna. It's just, the circumstances. You're, like I said, taking kind of a larger antenna, like almost a base antenna, and putting it lower to the ground. So that's going to be normal. The Striker SRA 10 here. Have absolutely no complaints about it. The rubber boot on here, because it just kind of comes over the bottom edge here and doesn't, come up over the top, it has a tendency to kind of come off if you're taking it on and off a lot and moving it around a lot, which I was in the test. But otherwise, can't really say anything bad about it. It performed just fine, so no big deal there. Good antenna, I think. The Wilson here. I've got video and already went through kind of what happened with it. I'm really seriously not happy with it. I'm very not happy with it because I could have had a high power radio or something else hooked up to that, when it took a dump. Wilson, unfortunately, while the design of their antennas is great, the quality control of some of them over the years has just taken a crap. So this thing shorted out during a test. It really, in my opinion, while I did get it fixed, I got it to work, in my opinion, it just, it really didn't finish the test, so it just probably really shouldn't be on here with the rest of these, I don't think. I mean, pretty much how I feel about it. So we're just gonna kind of, planes have like a missing man formation, when they've lost a pilot or whatever, so we're just kind of gonna put this here in memory of the Wilson, because Wilson 5000, it's a great antenna, but the quality control of what's going on inside is just, it's ridiculous. So, anyway, on to the President Maryland here. This is a great antenna. This thing works better than it should, or I thought it would. And again, it's just the design. Some of these antennas, even though they kind of have this taller, tippy design in them, they work really well because just the way they're designed. You've got these tuning rings on here, so it's pretty easy to tune in. Can't complain about it. Again, it's only got a 500 watt power rating, but if you're not running a whole bunch of power through something and you're not putting it on something, like a four-wheel drive that's too tippy or something, yeah, great antenna. No complaints about it at all. The tram here, the 3500, great antenna. Again, no complaints. Again, you don't have to trim the whip at all because it slides up and down in here enough that you can pretty much do your 10, 11, and 12 meter with it. The rubber boot on this thing, it kind of comes up and over the edge here. So unlike this one here, throwing it around, it didn't come off of there. You could say the same thing for the rubber boot on the tram here. This is actually the same like rubber boot, I believe, that's on this one here. So that's good that these rubber boots will fit on, looks like a variety of different antenna bases. So, but the tram here, yeah, great antenna, really low SWR. Got the rubber boot on there. Can't say anything bad about it. Great antenna. And this thing here, it's regularly 89 bucks. I got this thing on sale for 59 bucks shipped. So given what it is, you really can't complain about that. Go down here to the Wilson 500 here. Again, this is an older gray box Wilson 500, so it's been great. It's been a good working antenna. I can't complain about it, but some people have said that the newer ones maybe suffer from some of the same quality control that the 5000 and the 1000 do. So I don't know. That's another. Again, that's another debate. But the antenna itself, it's a great antenna. It keeps up pretty much with all the rest of these. So there you go. Good antenna. This one, anyways. The like I said, the older gray box 500. And then, of course, down here we have a little tram here. This little thing just chugs and chugs. It stays within an S unit or two of everything else, no matter what the circumstances and no matter what the test. So +1 for this. And again, I'm not dissing the K40 or the Little Will or the Hustler or any of these, in these range, because they're all as good. I'm not going to say anything bad about them. It's an impressive category of an antenna, and I think it's because while they are significantly smaller than some of these, they just there's enough sticking up here and there's enough of a load in here going on that it's just they work really well. So that's pretty much my opinions of the group and the testing and everything that went on. Again, you have a lot of these things that were all within an S unit or two of each other, and that's okay. You can see they're all going to have different uses for what you want. Again, if you've got a tighter space and more enclosed space, and you got SWR worries, something like this, might be better. You know, you got a nice four-wheel drive and you're sitting on top of a mountaintop or something, something like that probably do you pretty good. And then of course there's, everything in the middle. So once again, I really hope this was able to help some people and be a little bit entertaining. As I've said before, I don't really think there's been too many people or organizations, for that matter, maybe some magazines here and there over the years or something, but there just really hasn't been a lot of antenna shootouts or comparison tests. And you got to have them once in a while, because you need to know what's going on with the quality control. Obviously, you need to know what's still available, and it's just kind of a cool thing to do. And it was just something that like I said, when I got back into radio, I just kind of it seemed like, geez, I'm surprised somebody hasn't just bought a whole bunch of antennas and tested them all. So again, I did it with all the small ones, and I couldn't do all those small ones without doing the larger ones. So again, you've got trucker style antennas that have the center load, and some of those will probably perform just as well or better than some of these even, maybe. So someday I may test some of those. But again, for the mag mount antennas, from all the small ones to the biggest ones that you can buy, I think we're pretty much covering them all. So I hope all these videos were entertaining and helpful, and we'll see you at the next one. Shay, Gemini Garage.